Welcome back to the channel, folks, where we dive into the wild, wonderful world of men transforming into women in all kinds of fascinating ways. If that's your vibe, don't forget to smash that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Now let's jump right into today's story. Chapter 9. The drive back to the lab was quiet, but unlike last time, Michael wasn't drowning in uncertainty. Instead, his mind was filled with everything that had happened over the last 48 hours. He stared at his reflection in the car window, trying to detect the subtle changes that had already begun. His skin was definitely different, smoother, with a slight luminosity that hadn't been there before. The stubble that normally shadowed his jaw by this time of day was conspicuously absent. His face seemed softer somehow, the angles less pronounced. Though whether that was actually happening or just his imagination, he couldn't be sure. It's starting, he thought, fascinated and terrified in equal measure. I'm already becoming someone else. John and Claire had done everything to make him feel like part of the family, even more than before. It wasn't forced or overwhelming. It was just natural. Dinners together, late-night conversations, even just watching TV as if he had always belonged there. Your dinner habits have already changed, John had pointed out the night before, as Michael picked at a salad instead of devouring his usual steak. You didn't even want a beer. The thought of it made me nauseous. Michael had admitted, bewildered by his own changing preferences. I wanted tea. With honey. What is happening to me? Claire had just smiled knowingly. Your biological preferences are adjusting to match mine. I've never liked beer much. Great. Michael had groaned. So, I'm losing my taste for beer and steak. What's next? Am I going to start craving chocolate and romantic comedies? Just wait until you experience your first chocolate craving, Claire had replied with a wink. It's like nothing else on earth. He hadn't given them a final answer on the adoption yet, but if he was being honest with himself, he was definitely leaning towards saying yes. Then, there was the other big change. His new name. After a long talk with Claire, they had settled on something that felt right. Familiar yet different. Something close to his old identity but unique to his new one. Emma. Duh. It has the same first letter, Claire had suggested. And it's elegant, timeless. Plus it can be shortened to Marley, which has that same casual vibe as Michael. As long as it's not something like Tiffany or Brittany, Michael had replied. No offense to Tiffany's or Brittany's, but I don't think I could pull that off. Emma has gravitas. John had chimed in. Emma Dietrich was a badass. You just want to call me Marley because of that dog movie, Michael had accused. Maybe, John had admitted with a grin. But admit it, it suits you. It had a nice ring to it. It felt like him, or at least, the person he was about to become. Emma, he thought now, testing it out silently. I'm Michael now. But soon, I'll be Emma. The idea no longer terrified him the way it once had. It was still bizarre. Still unprecedented. But somehow, having a name made it feel more real, more concrete. He wasn't just losing his identity. He was transforming it into something new. And then, there was the training. Michael. Emma sighed, rubbing his temple as the car moved smoothly down the road. Claire had wasted no time in giving him a crash course in womanhood. You can't just sit with your legs apart like that anymore, Claire had scolded during one of their lessons the day before. Women tend to keep their knees together, especially when wearing skirts. Which I'm never doing, Michael had replied firmly. Claire had just laughed. Never say never. You might find dresses more comfortable than you think, especially once your hips widen. Clothing choices, makeup, movement, articulation, things he had never once thought about were suddenly very important. How to sit, how to stand, how to walk. Hell, even how to hold things apparently had nuances he had never considered. You don't need to grip everything like you're trying to crush it, Claire had demonstrated, holding a wine glass delicately between her fingers. Women tend to use a lighter touch. So, I have to pretend everything's made of glass? Michael had asked skeptically. Not everything, Claire had replied with a mischievous smile. Some things still require a firm grip. I walked right into that one, Michael had groaned, as John burst out laughing. It had been overwhelming at times, but Claire had been patient, encouraging, and despite the awkwardness, Michael had to admit, he was learning. The physical changes were accelerating too. This morning, he'd noticed his hair was definitely growing faster. What had been a short, tidy cut 2 days ago was now almost touching his ears. The color was changing too, the dark brown lightening subtly, strands of golden blonde beginning to appear. His body felt different. Lighter somehow, yet softer. His muscles didn't have quite the same definition they had before. When he showered that morning, he'd noticed his chest felt tender, sensitive in a way it never had before. It's really happening, he kept thinking. I'm becoming her. Now? As they pulled up to the lab for his second round of injections, the one that would actually begin reshaping his body, Michael took a deep breath and stepped out of the car. Ready for round 2? John asked, clapping him on the shoulder. Michael flinched slightly. His skin was more sensitive now. Another subtle change. As ready as anyone can be to have their entire physical form rearranged, he replied dryly. Which is to say, not very. You'll be fine, Claire assured him, linking her arm through his. I'll be right there with you. Easy for you to say, Michael muttered. You're not the one about to grow breasts. No, but I'm the one whose breasts you'll be growing, Claire pointed out. Think of it as borrowing my body for a while. Most people just borrow a cup of sugar from their neighbors, Michael quipped. Leave it to you two to take it to the extreme. John, Claire, and Michael walked inside, the sterile scent of the facility already becoming familiar. Just like before, Dr. Carter was waiting for them. She gave them a professional but warm smile and gestured for them to sit. As Michael lowered himself into the chair, she looked at him closely, as if assessing his mental and physical state. I see the initial transformation has already begun, she observed, studying his face. Your skin texture has changed significantly, and there's already some facial restructuring happening. Is that why my jaw feels different? Michael asked, touching his face self-consciously. Less angular. Exactly, Dr. Carter nodded. The retrovirus works quickly on the cellular level. Your face will likely be one of the first areas to complete the transformation. Oh, great, Michael said. At least I'll have a pretty face while the rest of me is in flux. Any other changes you've noticed? Dr. Carter asked, making notes on her tablet. Michael hesitated, unsure how much to share. Everything feels more sensitive, more intense. My skin doesn't feel like my skin anymore. And my chest is tender. That's to be expected, Dr. Carter assured him. No, the breast development has already initiated at the cellular level. The visible changes will accelerate after today's injection. Ow. Michael swallowed hard, the reality hitting him anew. How fast does that particular change happen? Relatively quickly, Dr. Carr replied, matter-of-factly. You should see noticeable development within days, with full development occurring during your first transformation sleep. Transformation sleep sounds so mystical, John commented. Like something from a fairy tale. There's nothing mystical about it, Dr. Carter replied. It's the body's way of protecting itself during major structural changes. Speaking of which, she turned back to Michael. Have you experienced any unusual fatigue or fever yet? Just general tiredness, Michael admitted. And some weird buzzing sensations. Like my body is vibrating from the inside. That's normal, Dr. Carter assured him. Your cells are actively restructuring. The sensation will intensify after today's injection. Then she asked, "So, Michael, how are you feeling?" The question was simple enough, but loaded with meaning. How was he feeling about becoming someone else? About the changes already happening to his body? About giving up his identity, even temporarily, to help John and Claire? "Physically, I'm changing," Michael replied carefully. "It's strange, feeling my body shift little by little. Everything feels different, my skin, my senses, even my thoughts sometimes." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "Emotionally, I'm surprisingly okay. Still terrified of what's coming, especially after today's injection. But I'm ready." "He's being modest," Claire interjected. "He's been incredibly brave. The changes are already more noticeable than we expected at this stage, but he's handling it with remarkable grace." "Yeah, real graceful," Michael scoffed. "Especially when I knocked over that glass last night, because I suddenly couldn't gauge my own reach." "Your spatial awareness will adjust as your body changes," Dr. Carter explained. "Your brain needs time to adapt to your new proportions." "Great," Michael sighed. "So, I'm not just changing bodies. I'm also temporarily clumsy." "Look on the bright side," John offered. "At least you have a good excuse for when you inevitably trip in heels." "Who said anything about heels?" Michael demanded, shooting Claire a suspicious look. "We'll cross that bridge when we come to it," Claire replied diplomatically, though the twinkle in her eye suggested it wasn't a matter of if but when. "Today's injection will accelerate everything," Dr. Carter explained, preparing a syringe. "The changes you've experienced so far are just the preliminaries. After this, the transformation will proceed much more rapidly." Michael stared at the syringe, his mouth suddenly dry. This was it, the point of no return. The first injection had started the process, but this one would commit him fully to the transformation. "Will it hurt?" he found himself asking, hating how vulnerable he sounded. "There may be some discomfort as your body changes," Dr. Carter admitted, "but we'll provide medication to manage any pain. And remember, during the most dramatic shifts, you'll be unconscious." "Small mercies," Michael muttered. "Just think," John said, attempting to lighten the mood in a few weeks. "You'll have better hair than both of us combined." "And better curves," Claire added with a smile. "I'm going to need so much therapy when this is over," Michael groaned, but there was no real distress in his voice. He looked at John and Claire, his soon-to-be official family, and felt a strange sense of peace settle over him. The path ahead was bizarre, unprecedented, and more than a little terrifying. But he wasn't walking it alone. "All right," he said, rolling up his sleeve and offering his arm to Dr. Carter. "Let's do this. Emma's waiting." Chapter 10. Michael took a deep breath, then exhaled slowly. He looked at Claire, then at John, before finally turning back to Dr. Carter. "I'm ready," he said firmly, though the slight tremor in his voice betrayed his lingering apprehension. Inside, his thoughts were racing. This is it. The point of no return. After this, Michael Reynolds starts his farewell tour. He studied his hands for a moment. They already looked different, the fingers slightly more slender, the skin smoother. How much more would change after today? Would he even recognize himself by the end of the week? Dr. Carter nodded approvingly. "All right then, let's begin." "Just to be clear," Michael said, attempting to lighten the mood. "This isn't the part where you cackle maniacally and yell it's alive, right?" Dr. Carter's lips quirked upward. "I save that for Tuesdays. Today I'll maintain professional decorum." "Shame," John quipped. "I was looking forward to the mad scientist routine." Michael hopped up onto the examination table, the paper lining crinkling beneath him as he settled onto the surface. The reality of what was happening didn't quite hit him yet. Maybe it was the exhaustion, or maybe his mind was still catching up to the fact that he was already no longer genetically himself. "Anyone else having déjà vu?" he asked, glancing around the sterile room. "Feels like we were just here yesterday, doing this exact same thing." "Technically, it was 2 days ago," Claire corrected gently, moving to stand beside him. She reached out and squeezed his hand. "And this time is different. This is when things really start to change." Michael squeezed back, grateful for the anchor. "Great. Can't wait to wake up tomorrow and not recognize myself in the mirror." "You're still going to be you," Claire assured him. "Just packaged differently." "Yeah, in your packaging," Michael retorted with a nervous laugh. "Which is lovely packaging. Don't get me wrong, but definitely not what I'm used to." A nurse entered the room, efficiently prepping his arm before drawing several vials of blood. Michael barely flinched at the needle. He had been through worse. "Nice veins," the nurse commented professionally. "Very cooperative." "Thanks," Michael replied dryly. "They're about the only part of me that isn't having an identity crisis right now." The nurse smiled politely, clearly used to nervous patients making awkward jokes. Dr. Carr took the samples and inserted them into a machine nearby. The screen lit up with various readings, analyzing the genetic markers in real time. After a few moments, the results came in, and Dr. Carter studied them with interest. "Well," she said with a small smile, "it's official. Your DNA has fully rewritten itself. As far as your genetic code is concerned, you are Claire Carter." Michael let out a low whistle. "Damn. No turning back now, huh?" He stared at the screen, trying to comprehend what it meant. Those patterns, those sequences of letters and numbers, they weren't his anymore. The fundamental building blocks that made him who he was had been completely rewritten. "So my body is basically getting new blueprints," he said, attempting to process the information. "Like a contractor who suddenly got handed completely different plans mid-construction." "That's actually not a bad analogy," Dr. Carter admitted. "Your cells are rebuilding, according to a new genetic template." "Is that why I've been feeling so strange?" Michael asked. "Like, my skin feels different, more sensitive. And I swear my sense of smell has gotten sharper. John's cologne was practically giving me a headache this morning." "Hey," John protested. "That's top-shelf stuff." Claire laughed. "I've been telling him for years it's too strong." "Welcome to my world," Dr. Carter chuckled. "Not unless you want to go through an equally complex reversal process later." "Which is definitely the plan," Michael clarified quickly. "No offense, Claire, but I'd like my original equipment back eventually." "None taken," Claire replied with an amused smile, "though you might find certain aspects of womanhood surprisingly enjoyable." "Like what?" "The monthly subscription to pain. The joy of underwire. The glass ceiling." Michael shot back. "I was thinking more along the lines of multiple orgasms." Claire responded matter-of-factly, causing Michael to choke on air. "Claire," he sputtered. John burst out laughing. "She's not wrong." Michael glanced at Claire, who gave him a reassuring smile, then at John, who smirked, as if this was all some elaborate joke at Michael's expense. "You're enjoying this way too much," Michael accused John. If the situations were reversed, he wouldn't be laughing. "Probably not," John admitted easily. "But they're not reversed, and I get to maintain my status as the only male in the household for the foreseeable future. It's a rare win for me." "Poor baby," Claire mocked gently. "Such a burden, being the only man among beautiful women." Before he could dwell on it further, Dr. Carter turned back to him, holding a new syringe filled with a slightly iridescent liquid. Michael eyed it warily. The fluid seemed to shimmer under the fluorescent lights, almost as if it were alive. That doesn't look like normal medicine, he observed nervously. More like something from a sci-fi movie where everyone turns into mutants by the third act. This, she said, raising it slightly, is the next phase. This retrovirus will begin the actual physical transformation. Your body will start aligning with your new genetic blueprint, gradually reshaping itself over the next few weeks. And there's no chance I'll grow a third eye or tentacles or anything, right? Michael asked, only half joking. Because if I'm going to turn into a monster, I'd like some warning. No tentacles, Dr. Carter assured him with professional patience. Just standard female anatomy. Standard for Claire. Anyway, John muttered, earning himself an elbow in the ribs from his wife. Michael eyed the syringe, then shrugged. Sure, why not? I'm already partially Claire anyway. Despite his casual tone, his heart was pounding. This was the real beginning, the moment his body would start to physically change. Any last words? As the man formerly known as Michael Reynolds, John asked, his tone teasing, but with an undercurrent of understanding. Michael thought for a moment. Yeah. Tell my Xbox I loved her. Claire rolled her eyes. Drama queen. Just wait, Michael retorted. In a few weeks, I'll be the queen of drama. I'll have the body for it and everything. Dr. Carter smiled at his nonchalance, then carefully injected the serum into his veins. The moment the liquid entered his bloodstream, Michael felt an odd, spreading warmth radiate from the injection site. It wasn't painful, just different. Like something inside him had been switched on. Whoa, he breathed, his eyes widening slightly. That's intense. What does it feel like? Claire asked curiously. Michael struggled to find the words. Like my blood just turned into warm honey. And there's this buzzing sensation, like every cell in my body just woke up and started vibrating. Dr. Carter nodded. That's the retrovirus activating. It's spreading through your system, instructing your cells to begin the physical transformation process. The sensation intensified, spreading from his arm throughout his torso and down to his legs. It wasn't unpleasant exactly, but it was undeniably strange, as if his body was suddenly humming with energy. Is it supposed to feel this strong? Michael asked, a hint of concern creeping into his voice. Everyone's reaction is different, Dr. Carter replied calmly. But yes, many patients report similar sensations. It should stabilize within a few minutes. As if on cue, the intense buzzing began to subside, settling into a gentler, more consistent warmth. Dr. Carter withdrew the needle and pressed a cotton pad to his arm. Oh, that's it. The process has officially begun. Michael exhaled slowly, staring at his arm, where the injection had gone in. He flexed his fingers experimentally. They already felt different, more sensitive, somehow both stronger and more delicate at the same time. Was that possible, or was it just his imagination? So when do the big changes start? He asked, trying to keep his voice steady. When do I need to prepare for the first, what did you call it? Transformation, sleep. The first major changes should begin within 48 to 72 hours, Dr. Carter explained. Though you'll notice subtle shifts before then. Your body hair will continue to thin, your skin will become softer, and you may experience some emotional fluctuations as your hormonal balance shifts. Great, Michael muttered. So I get to be a hormonal mess before I even get the curves to match. If it helps, Claire offered, I've packed you a survival kit. Chocolate, tissues, and some truly terrible romantic comedies. My worst nightmare, Michael groaned, though there was no real distress in his voice. He could feel it happening already. That strange, warm sensation spreading through his body. It felt like his cells were rearranging themselves, preparing for the dramatic changes to come. "Well," he muttered, "guess it's time to start saying goodbye to Michael." The words hung in the air, more weighty than he'd intended. For all his jokes and casual banter, the reality was sinking in. Michael Reynolds was fading away, and Emma was about to take his place.